Every December, I wonder what the first Dephemerember project will feel like. And this year, I start with a desk full of papers, my jelly plate, and a bunch of the happiest acrylic colors. Today, we are turning these papers into tags with a moss-eaten lace and small fussy cut images. Simple, cozy pieces to start this creative journey together. I have my lace that was part of the parcel that Jem from Jem's Creative Space sent to me, my jelly plate, and in her little parcel was also an antique music sheet that I really would like to use for today's prompt, so I will cut it in half that I can use it for my jelly print. But I think I get ahead of myself. Welcome back to Diary of a Creative Therapist. It's Dephemerember 2025, the beautiful annual tradition hosted by Barbara from 49 Dragonflies and Luise Heinzel, where we create little paper treasures all months long. This year's theme is compartmental making. So instead of building full ephemera pieces or journals, we are slowing down and crafting the tiny components, the small, meaningful bits that become the heart of our future journals. As always, I'm blending the making with gentle reflections, crafting as a way to regulate, reconnect, and breathe. So settle in, gather your scraps, and let's begin today's prompt together. Because before I even touched the paper tags, I spent a good while playing with my jelly plate, and I have to confess something right at the start. As you can see here, I have way too much paint. So I'm really not an expert in jelly printing. Not at all. This is actually the first time I'm showing it on my channel, I think. And really the first time I've committed to making a whole batch of color matching prints in one go. It's something I always wanted to do, to have this big stack of beautiful coordinated papers in the same color palette, but I actually never quite got around to it. And I think Dephemerember, with its focus on compartmental making, feels like the perfect place to finally give myself permission to try. Not perfectly, not professionally, just me starting it, trying it all out. And honestly, it's exactly what I need. There's something so unexpectedly calming about rolling paint across the plate, lifting prints, adding layers, and watching textures appear almost by accident. It doesn't feel like making art, like in this pressure-heavy sense. It feels more like exploring or playing or letting your hands figure things out while your mind catches a break. So for me, this is as close to meditation as I ever get without sitting still. So my hands move, your senses engage, and your thoughts get quieter without even noticing. And because I'm not an expert, I'm approaching it with curiosity rather than expectation. I'm allowing the paint to do what it wants. I'm letting the plate surprise me, and I'm not worried about technique, just color, movement, and joy and fun and being surprised. Sometimes, like, not only how beautiful they look, but sometimes also how they actually don't. And there's something very freeing about being a beginner again. It takes the pressure off for me. It invites like a softer kind of creativity, the kind that doesn't mind mistakes or messy textures or unexpected outcomes. And maybe that's something you need today too. Permission to not be good at something right away, permission to play without a plan, and permission to enjoy the process instead of the final product. The colors I chose, turquoise, green, and pink, they are my little girl's favorite. she keeps reaching for the same three shades and is so happy to be allowed to do that. And I find that turned out to be really beautiful because everything I'm going to make this month will fit together. There's such a comfort in that, like in knowing that the colors will harmonize, that the tones will echo each other, that nothing will really clash without me even trying. It creates like a soft visual rhythm over the whole month. At least that's what I hope. And I think if you ever feel overwhelmed by too many options when crafting, try limiting your palette or try limiting your craft supplies. It gives you fewer decisions to make and more room to enjoy the making. And for compartmental making, where we are creating lots of little building blocks like tags, clusters, pockets, I think a cohesive palette really helps. It means every little piece has a home waiting for it. And truly, I think you can never have too many jelly prints. So I'm moving on here. I think I will do also a lot of camera because I'm really into it right now, and I enjoy that they have that, like they are all out of the same color family, and like I'm envisioning that they will become the foundation for almost everything this month, like the backgrounds, maybe the belly bands, text, pockets, cluster, journaling cards, collage scraps, textured layers. I can do some die cutting with it maybe, and a page tab for today, and even like tiny fragments or details. Let's see where it all goes. Like jelly prints are the quiet workhorse of my craft room, I think, and they sit in this little pile looking unimportant until suddenly they may be the perfect piece you need for that corner that wouldn't behave, or that's something you need to cover up, or like that sparks your idea for the next prompt. I love that. It's like having a secret stash of possibilities. And as I keep smoothing the paper here, lifting the print carefully, I realize how soothing the repetition is. Repetition is one of the strongest ways we regulate our nervous system. And look at this, like this has little bubbles and the white, like this line in it. I really like it. Doing the same thing, it says to the body, you are safe enough to repeat the same actions again and again. It's the same principle behind knitting or walking or rocking or slow breathing. Your system responds to the rhythm long before your mind does. Jelly printing has this rhythm built in, like rolling, then pressing the paper down, lifting it up, peeling it, and then repeating the same thing. Even if the prints come out messy, the movement itself calms you. It's completely process-driven, not outcome-driven. And that's why it pairs so well with the beginning of Dephemerember. We are starting a month of gentle creativity and beginning with something repetitive, colorful, pressure-free. I find sets such a kind tone. So, if you are crafting along with me right now, or even just watching these prints appear on screen, maybe let this be a soft reminder. You don't have to start perfectly, you don't have to be an expert, you don't have to know what you are doing. Beginnings are allowed to be messy, playful, curious. And for me, starting Dephemerember with a desk full of jelly prints feels like the best kind of beginning. Unpolished, colorful, and full of possibilities. And here are the prints I ended up with. And I have to say, this is my favorite part of the whole jelly printing experience, looking at them all together. Some of these turned out really nicely, and some are a little chaotic, and with others I'm still not entirely sure about. But I think that's the charm, isn't it? Gelli printing gives you the whole spectrum of results. The confident ones, the weird ones, the muddy ones, and the quite little surprises. And every single print has potential. Even the ones I don't love straight away can become the base for a future layer, or the background for texture, or the first step towards something completely different. Nothing is wasted in Gelli printing. Everything can be built on. And I notice something really interesting when I look through the pile. I actually love the prints I made on the side of the plate while cleaning my brayer. Those light, imperfect layers, the accidental stripes, the soft transitions between colors, they feel so natural and painterly for me. It's almost funny, isn't it? You spend so much time trying to make good prints, and then the cleanup paper ends up being the most beautiful of the bunch. But there's a life lesson in that too. Sometimes the things we do on the side, the unplanned, unpolished moments, turn out to be the most honest. You'll see how different the turquoise, pink and green showed up, depending on how much paint was on the plate, or how dry the layer was, or whether I pulled a fresh sheet or a ghost print. Some are bright and bold, and others soft and whispery, almost like they are all part of the same family, but each one has its own personality. And as I sift through the stack, I'm slowly paying attention to what pulls me in. What colors make me exhale like a little deeper. What textures feel calmer rather than busy. And which ones spark that tiny yes feeling in the chest. And after looking at them all, I'm setting on this turquoise pink print as the one I want to use for my page tabs today. It has this lovely balance, soft but vibrant, texture but not overpowering. It feels like a gentle beginning for the whole month. Maybe you're noticing something similar in your own crafting, how certain colors or pages just feel right, for reasons you can't fully explain. I think that's intuition. That's your system choosing what it needs right now. And creative intuition is a skill you strengthen every time you listen to those little yeses. So, this turquoise pink print will be my starting point for day 1 of Dephemerember. I decided to make page tabs as I need 5 for my December junk journal planner. When I first made them, I genuinely thought, yes, paper tags, perfect, that's exactly what I need. And only later did that little voice go, oh no, that's not what paper tags normally are. But honestly, I'm completely okay with that. Creativity doesn't need us to be perfect, I think. It just needs us to show up. And yes, it's a page tab and not a paper tag. But if you are creating along today, maybe you're noticing the same thing. How easy it is to judge these tiny decisions we make. But in this space, in this gentle little craft room, I decided none of that pressure belongs. And so I am punching out my paper tags here, and I'm always so surprised how satisfying the punching out of the tabs feels. It's so quick, almost comically quick compared to how long the Gelli printing took. Just positioning here of the punch where I want it, then the soft cracking sound when the die cuts through the fiber of the paper, and suddenly I have these perfect little page tabs. Now I'm moving on to the lace, which is one of my favorite parts today. This lace came from Gem at Gem's Creative Space in our swap, and it has this beautifully worn antique quality that just radiates history. There's something deeply soothing about working with materials that have lived a life before entering your craft room. It feels like collaborating with time. I like knowing that someone's hand touched it before mine, and now I'm adding my own creative little ideas to the bigger story. Gluing these tiny mixed media pieces is always a little fiddly, and I think that's why it's so grounding. You have to slow down, you have to be gentle, you have to pay attention to where the fibers want to sit. And attention, real present moment attention, is one of the most reliable ways to regulate the nervous system. So as I glue down the lace for this first tab, I am not rushing. I'm letting it be a small act of care. For a focal point, I'm reaching for one of the little images from my December free printable kit. In this part, the fussy cutting always slows me further down in the best possible way. There's something about every tiny turn of the scissors that gently narrows the mind's focus. You can't think about 10 things at once when your blade is tracing the curve of a delicate leaf or the outline of a Christmas decoration. You can't catastrophize, you can't rehearse an old conversation, you can't plan 6 steps ahead. Your attention is invited into this small, precise movement, and that becomes its own kind of micro-meditation. In a season where everything around us tends to speed up, the errands, the noise, the emotions, the expectations, this little act of cutting becomes a pocket of slowness, a manageable pace, a quiet, steady breath. Even the sound of it, that soft snip, snip, feels grounding, almost like you're trimming away the unnecessary thoughts along with the extra paper. I'm choosing one small image for each tab. Nothing too bold or too busy, just a gentle focal point that anchors the piece without overwhelming the texture of the jelly print or the softness of the lace. It's a reminder too that sometimes the small detail can bring the whole thing together. And sometimes the smallest, most manageable task is the one that brings us back together as well. Alright, now that the lace is already glued down and the little image is all fussy cut, this part feels really calm and satisfying. Before I actually stick the focal point on, I like to take my Distress Oxide ink in Vintage Photo and just run it softly around the edges. It's such a tiny thing, but it makes a big difference, I find. It warms the piece up, gives it a bit of definition, and somehow makes everything look like it belongs together. I always smile to myself at this stage because everything finally starts to look like an actual piece of ephemera instead of a pile of parts. 3 simple layers, the sturdy jelly print, the soft lace, and the little image with its cozy vintage edges, and now they are working together like one little team. It reminds me of how our own parts work, in a way. We have these structures bits of ourselves, these soft and tender bits, and the tiny things that give us meaning or direction. And when they are all allowed to exist together, it feels like coherence. Not perfect, just right. So, looking at it, I'm letting myself enjoy the slowness of this moment. Nothing fancy, nothing overwhelming, just a tiny tab layered with a little care. So, here we are, the first piece of Dephemerember 2025. Not a paper tag in the traditional sense, but something really authentically me. Now let me show you how all 5 tabs look, tucked into my December junk journal planner. There's something incredibly satisfying about seeing a set completed, especially when the colors and textures harmonize across the pages. The turquoise, green and pink tones and the lace tie everything together so softly. And as we begin this creative month together, maybe hold on to this thought. It's okay to start slowly. It's okay to make happy little accidents. And it's okay to let the process be enough. Sometimes the softest beginning lead to the most meaningful seasons. And with that, I wish you a wonderful first day of Dephemerember, and I hope to see you tomorrow for the second day.